Black, female, and broke. What is it when it comes to black women? Nearly 40% of black women over the age of 65 are totally dependent upon Social Security. That is a piece written by our next guest in Forbes.com, and it is an issue that we must deal with. Joining us right now is Dr. Maya Rockamore. Doc, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Just fine. This whole issue. I mean, this issue has been one that we've had to contend with. When you talk about income inequality, what happens as African Americans get older? President Barack Obama also addressed this issue.
Black women have ascended the ranks of every industry. Teen pregnancy rates among girls of color are down, while high school and four-year college graduation rates are up. That's good news. But there's no denying that black women and girls still face real and persistent challenges. The unemployment rate is over 8% for black women, and they're overrepresented in low-paying jobs, underrepresented in management. They often lack access to economic necessities like paid leave and quality, affordable child care. They often don't get the same quality health care that they need and have higher rates of certain chronic diseases. It is an affront to the very idea of America when certain segments of our population don't have access to the same opportunities as everybody else. It makes a mockery of our economy when black women make 30 fewer cents for every dollar a white man earns. That adds up to thousands of dollars in missed income that determines whether a family can pay for a home or pay for college for their kids or save for retirement or give their kids a better life. And that's not just a woman's issue, that's everybody's issue.
So, Doc, when you look at this, nearly 40% totally dependent on Social Security. That is not the kind of life you want to live when you're 65 or older, especially now we're living longer.
But it's the life that African American women are leading. The state of African American women's economics is absolutely a crisis. And it's not just a crisis for black women, it's a crisis for the black family, the black community, and for America when you look at the poverty numbers. African American women are flat broke. And when you look at single African American women, the reason why we focus on single African American women is that black women are the least likely to be married in this country out of all of the demographic groups. Our wealth numbers are absolutely crazy.
And somebody hearing that has to understand that when folks are married and you have two incomes, it's easier to pay off student loan debt, it's easier to pay off debt, it's easier to acquire a home. And so when you have to give it a go by yourself, I mean, all the financial burden is on you.
That's exactly right. And since African American women are the primary caretakers of our children, you look at the wealth numbers and you see that black women with children have zero wealth compared to almost 15,000 for white women. Black women who don't have kids own about $250 worth of median wealth compared to almost 16,000 for white women. This is a crisis, and it speaks to the reason why we have such high poverty numbers. It speaks to the reason why we're living just paycheck to paycheck. It speaks to the reason why we actually need policies and different strategies to actually build assets in the African American community focused on African American women. And there's an old saying, a Chinese saying that, women hold up half the sky. But in the African American community, women hold up more than half the sky, because when you look at the incarceration numbers for African American men and realize that so many of them are missing from our communities, black women are just trying to hold it together. And they're holding it together literally with no money in their pockets and one foot in the grave when it comes to their health statistics.
Both of you, when she used a stat of zero money and $250, y'all were like, I mean, I saw both of your faces.
I do the numbers, but it's just devastating every time you hear it. But then it's not surprising when you actually think about how many women in this position. I mean, when you start to go off to college, a lot of times your family can't help you out, so you end up taking out student loans. You leave college in debt. No one can help you out with your first car payment. No one's going to help you out getting your rent. And so you are living paycheck to paycheck. You are living in debt, and that debt continues.
Well, it makes me think when you mentioned the 60-year-old black woman who's like literally taking care of more than half of her family. It reminds me of my grandmother, who was living paycheck to paycheck but had to raise 5 additional grandkids. And so when you're talking about the African American community and why has continued to see so much adversity is because the black woman doesn't have access to wealth and doesn't have access to additional opportunities that can move her out of poverty.
And they're getting paid less. So after working a lifetime at low pay, often in jobs that don't have actually benefits that help you build assets, then you get to retirement, and then you wonder why we're disproportionately relying on Social Security.
And I think this also plays a role when you were talking about marriage rates, and this is something I tend to pay a great deal of attention to. Even African American women who often aren't married, there are men in their lives who are equally financially impoverished, so they can't even contribute, whether that's a father, whether that's an uncle, whether that's a brother. So, the status of black women is always the canary in the mine. If black women aren't doing well, it probably means that the black men in their lives are also doing worse or just as bad, and that makes the entire community suffer as a whole.
In fact, I mean, I've seen more and more situations where African American men are not able to, bring in the wealth, and it's, probably because of, the discrimination they face in the labor market and other factors. But that means that African American women then have to color the economic, they have a greater economic burden. They're carrying everybody, not just their children, but also adult males in their lives.
How do we change it? How do we change it?
Gosh, so I mean, there's policy and there's practice, right? We absolutely have to address discrimination in the labor market, discrimination against women, discrimination against African Americans, and that's a combination of policy and practice. But we also have to get policymakers to get more savvy. When we talk about income inequality, that's just part of the story. It's also income and wealth, wages and wealth. We need to be talking about both, and so we need to be pushing asset building policies. African American women, absolutely. When you look at the data, when we're entrepreneurs, we're actually better off financially. And so we need to actually be building companies, and many more of us are doing that. African American women need to actually be, still purchasing homes, but paying attention to building equity in those homes and the kinds of homes that will actually help you build equity. So there are policies that can help support that, but there are also practices that need to be followed.
Pieces on Forbes.com, and where can folks reach you?
At Maya Rockeymoore on Twitter, but also, you can also visit us on Facebook, Global Policy Solutions.